Okay, here's another try at this. The Lions lost. Now, 18 months ago and beyond, saying the Lions lost was like, well, duh, they're the Lions. The Detroit Lions are by far and away the worst franchise in sports history, or at least American pro sports. I don't know what's going on over there in Europe or Japan and other places. I don't know about cricket, but as far as American football goes and just American sports in general, have not won a championship since the 50s, to the point where the wrong lane is blamed. I saw the ghost of Night Train Lane. It's not Night Train Lane, it's Bobby Lane. He was the quarterback. He was an alcoholic. He won us a few championships in the 50s and said that we'll never win a championship without him. And thus far, we've been correct. But for 18 months, which is last season and this season, we were actually an NFL franchise. So before I get into this video, I do want to express a great appreciation for everything everybody involved with this team has done, because I know us to be a poverty franchise. I've said this. It's been crazy to see all these hype beasts, bandwagon jumpers, and even old school loyal fans getting cocky to the point where people don't even regard the Lions as a poverty franchise. I heard a lot of people talking about how much worse of a franchise, or oh man, the Redskins are one of the worst franchises in sports. Bitch, they've won multiple Super Bowls. What are you talking about? We went 0-16. We went 2-14. Do you know what this franchise has been through? Are you serious? The Redskins haven't won since the 90s. We haven't won since the 50s. What are you talking about? But 18 months of internet hype, and you forget that? We ruined Barry Sanders. We ruined Calvin Johnson. We were going to ruin Matthew Stafford, but luckily we made a trade. And that trade helped set us up. For the past 18 months, for which I am very much still grateful, because I have said my entire life, even when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, the Lions will never win the Super Bowl. This is what I've always said. But for 18 months, I was able to suspend disbelief. Here's the reality of the situation. Has the window closed? We got 1 year left. In 2026, we'll be paying $100 million to Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. $69 million for Jared Goff in 2026. That's the reality. And everybody is so hyped for both of our coordinators to potentially be head coaches, and that's fine. That's fine. There's a lot of blame to go. We're going to get into that. And Jared Goff deserves a lion's share of that blame. Pun not intended. We'll get into that. But I want to get into Ben Johnson. Yeah, Ben. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm coming for you too, Campbell. We'll get to you. We'll get to everybody. And I love you all. Again, thank you for the past 18 months. I thank you. We never got this close before. I never thought we would get this close. But I want to go to Ben Johnson. And there's a reason why. And it's not just this game. Our last playoff exit, we were up 10 at the half. Unlike this time, we were down 10 at the half this time. We're up 10 at the half in San Francisco. We stopped running the ball. Whose call was that? Some of that may have been Dan Campbell, maybe Dan Gamble, I don't know. But it was probably Ben Johnson. We're down late. Whose call is that trick play for Jameson Williams to all of a sudden turn to a quarterback? He throws a pick. It's Ben Johnson. Everybody and their cousin and their mom wants Ben Johnson to come be their head coach. And the plays that he's had, the situations he's had to get some trial by fire as a head coach on the biggest stage or near the biggest stage. Obviously, the Super Bowl is the biggest stage. He's made some iffy decisions. So Jacksonville, Chicago, and maybe I'm saying this because I want them to come back and optimize that last year of a championship window that we may have next year. Maybe I am. But I just want to say, as great as Ben Johnson has been, he's not this genius God. We do this every few years. Remember with McVay, speaking of Goff in LA, we'll get into that, I'm sure. Remember when McVay was the guy and everyone just thought he was just a sick genius? We do this every so often when a great offensive mind shows up. Remember Mike Martz? That goof that everyone thought was an offensive genius? Every so often that happens, where there's a offensive coordinator or offensive coach and everyone just falls in love with them. I'm not saying Ben Johnson will be a bad head coach. He may be a championship head coach one day. I hope he is. But I'm just saying, as everyone who's falling in love with this guy and wants him to be a coach, look at some of the trial situations where he was calling an offense that needed plays to win big games, what he did. Again, not just talking about that J-Mo pick. We're up 10. You have one of the best running games in recent memory. Last year even. Nearly 2,000 yard backs. Basically, again, 2,000 yard backs. Two running backs both last year. I think it was D-Mont went over 1,000 and Jameer was at 900 last year, something like that. Or maybe the other way around. And you're up. And what did they run? Like 8 carries the second half, something like that. I'm going all off of memory. I don't got the stats in front of me. But I don't think I'm that far off. And then you need to play. And J-Mo throws a pick. But hey, let's be honest. There's more. Because he wasn't the only one throwing picks for the Lions, was he? Jared Goff. Now listen. Let's keep it a buck. I have known the whole time, a lot of Lions fans have. That's why there was Henderson Hooker. Whatever his name. Henderson Hooker? Whatever. He can't play quarterback. Whatever his name is. He's had a little bit of hype in the Lions forums and in the Lions Reddit because deep down, as much as we chant this guy's name, we like him. He looks like Ryan Gosling. Shout out to Ryan Gosling. We know he's not really that guy. I think we still can win a championship with him. But he's not the quarterback that wins the championship. The flow of energy. The best player on our team is Penei Sewell. The flow of energy for the Lions is offensive line first, then running game, then the passing game, then the rest of the team, especially this year and even last year. Last year, our defense wasn't that great. This year, our defense was actually solid, even with all the injuries, but we'll get into that. Maybe we could go into that now. No. Let me give Goff more smoke. Because Goff needs more smoke. I'll tell you where I was going to go. Maybe I can go somewhat there. One of the franchises one of the reasons our defense looks so great, and one of the reasons the NFC North looks so great, and best division ever, and all that shit, is because we beat up on the AFC South. AFC South, NFC West. You don't know how the schedule works. You have your divisional games, then a division is usually matched up with one division in your conference, another division outside your conference, and then that'll make up the bulk of your games. And then there's a few other games that they may toss out there for rivalry or whatever reasons. So, we were matched up with the AFC South. We got to play Jacksonville, which made that defense look better. Our defense, scoring-wise, look better. And the Tennessee Titans. And again, we're still giving Jared Goff smoke. This is going to be a long video, guys. So, strap in. We're only 9 minutes in. We got a lot more to go. Reason I wanted to bring up the Tennessee Titans because deep down, we're a very similar franchise. Or at least similar to 2018? 2019? The year that they had Ryan Tannehill, another, retread quarterback in a different situation. They had Derrick Henry. We have Sonic and Knuckles. But if you look at our combined production with Sonic and Knuckles, very comparable, probably superior to what Henry did on his own, even in his prime, King Henry, with the Titans. A.J. Brown. We got our own Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, great receiver. It's not too dissimilar a thing. Now, obviously, they had a better defense, but our offense is better, right? We got other weapons. Sam Laporta, J-Mo, as I mentioned, who is a much better receiver than quarterback. Ben Johnson, he did have a trick play work earlier in the game, so let's not just shit on him. We do have a good offense. The Goffense, quote unquote. But similar to Ryan Tannehill for the Titans, is Jared Goff really that guy? I still think we're good enough, all things concerned, to potentially put it together next year. If Aiden Hutchinson gets back and is healthy, will he be the same after a leg injury? I don't know. Even though the scoring defense was inflated by the AFC South and some of the NFC West, which wasn't that bad of a division, honestly. But, we were able to get a lot of wins because of that. And shout out to the Bucks being honorary members of the North. That's a meme, Reddit meme joke, because the Bucks used to be in the same division. But even though we were able to beat up on some of those teams, and our scoring defense looks better because of some of the teams we were able to beat up on, we still had a top 10 scoring defense without our best player most of the year, because Aiden went down in game 6 or 7, maybe 8, maybe it was half of the year. And he's supposedly our best player. And if you look at how much more pass rush we could have got if he was still in, and you look how good the secondary was, even though Terry and Arnold made another mistake, as he always does. If you still look at as good as the secondary, and Brian Branch, didn't he get hurt? The injuries thing, with all the injuries and countless injuries throughout the defense, not just Aiden, we still had a top 10 scoring defense. And on some level, you should be happy about that. But down the stretch, we knew this defense wasn't that good. We knew this defense had issues because of those injuries. Like I said, when you look at how good they were, even with the maybe fudge numbers with some of the teams we faced, you would like to think if you bring it all together, you would be a much better team next year. That if everyone can stay healthy, and obviously that's a big if, you would be a better team. But in saying that, because we're not done with Goff, we're still with Goff. That's why this is coming together. I'm ranting, but this is coming together. If you know your defense, which did nothing to stop Jaden Daniels all game, but if you know that your defense is hurt and that there's a lot of pressure on the offense, which there had been all season, to get these 15 wins. There's been a lot of pressure on the offense all season. And Jared Goff had the 5 touchdown game in the loss, just like he had the 5 pick game in a win. But if you know your defense, despite how some of the numbers have been, isn't in this best position, one thing you cannot do is turn the ball over 4 times, including pick sixes. He did get rocked, but wasn't that after one of the turnovers? I don't know. It's all scrambled together. And maybe some of the late turnovers was because he got rocked. He spent some time in the blue tent. I'll give you that as well. But you can't turn the ball over that much. You just can't. I don't care what happens. You can't turn the ball over. A lot of people are putting all of this game on Goff. That's not fair. It is funny to think about. I've heard, you have quarterbacks like Peyton Manning. And it's like, Peyton Manning has a lot of these exits. He has a lot of multi-pick playoff loss exits. So it's still possible. And he's been carried to championships where he didn't really contribute. Actually, both of Peyton, look at Peyton's numbers in both of those championship runs in the playoffs. They're not great. So you can win despite your quarterback if you build the team properly. And if everything comes together. And I think next year is the only year to do it, because we're not going to have the cap room after that. It can happen. I know we're in a quarterback-centric league. I know I'm supposed to make a quarterback video. I figured I'd wait until after this week, and I got more evidence. I can even toss Goff into maybe the negative pile. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But Goff cannot throw that many picks. I know I'm 14 minutes in the video saying this, but it goes without saying. He cannot throw that many picks. He cannot turn over the ball, which he does, losing fumbles. And we've known this about Goff the entire time we had him. He'll have these fucking games and these stretches where he is a turnover machine, where he just cannot keep the ball, and we cannot win if he does that. And, you know, a lot of times the term game manager is thrown around negatively. Tom Brady was a game manager, right? Joe Montana was a game manager. In that, they did not turn over the ball, especially in crucial moments and in crucial games. I don't think game manager has to be bad. If you're excellent at it, you're one of the best, if not the best quarterback of all time. And I think between the two, I mean, most people would say Brady's the best quarterback. And before that, Montana was. I don't think there's nothing wrong with being a game manager. But you cannot turn the ball over. So slight editor's note, I just want to go in on Goff a little bit more. I want to give a little bit more analysis to what I think Goff is and always has been. It's clear in both his Rams stint and in his Lions stint that he does need the coordinator or the offensive mind to do some of the quarterbacking for him. Because, especially last year, he doesn't really read defenses excellently. Now, he's become a better reader of defenses. He does kill calls. A lot of those are Ben Johnson's wacky-ass trick plays, but he does kill calls. He does read defenses now. He does go to more than just Amon-Ra St. Brown or the check down, which was what he did last year. He'll go through his progressions a little bit better. He's got a decent arm, especially intermediately. He can make some pretty good intermediate throws. He cannot move, and he cannot improvise. And listen, I'm not expecting you to be Lamar Jackson. I'm not expecting you to be Josh Allen. But I mentioned Tom Brady. If you ever watch Tom Brady in the pocket, it's masterful, his pocket presence, his ability to move in the pocket, even get outside if he needs to. Goff doesn't have that. In fact, when the play starts to break down, Goff starts to break down. He doesn't have a counter for what happens when the play breaks down. Does that mean he's not the guy and we should throw him away? No. Does that mean he needs $70 million? No. God, $70 million is a lot. God, I got to do that quarterback video how people are overpaying these motherfuckers. I got to get that done. But he is what he is. He is who he is. We can win a championship with him as our quarterback. I do believe that. But there's a reason I kind of compared him to Ryan Tannehill. Similarly, he makes more plays. He executes higher. He'll get more statistics than a Ryan Tannehill will, right? And we got a better offense all overall than a lot of the teams that I mentioned and compared to the Lions to. But I'm worried about him. He these turnovers. That's what kills me. If you gotta take some sacks because you can't run, fine. If you can't make every single throw, which he makes most of the throws, fine. If you miss a few reads and get some incompletions, fine. There was a lot of pressure on Goff to execute at a high perfect level for the entire year. A lot of that well-deserved. I mean, he's getting paid well. Again, he's getting paid well. But when the chips are down, is he able to protect the ball? That's what kills me. If you can protect the ball, I can live with everything else. If you can consistently protect the ball in crunch time, I can live with everything else. Because it wasn't just his fault. If he would have had no picks this game and we still lose, there's no blame on him to me. If we had the same score, it was a 31-45, but he didn't throw any picks for us to get there, no fumbles lost, nothing, and we just lost 31-45 in a shootout, and it was just all on the defense, there would be no smoke for Goff. No one would be wondering if he's the guy. No one will. I'm sure there's somebody bringing up Henderson Hooker again. Hopefully I got his name right this time. No one will be worried about that if he was able to keep the ball. That's the issue. And again, he's not the best reader of defenses. That's why Sean McVay had to read the defense for him. That's why Ben Johnson had to read the defense. He's improved. I think this year is his best year of reading defense. He's not the best improviser. If the play goes wrong, and if you get to the backfield, he's a sack. You know, he can't slide in the pocket like a Brady. He definitely can't get outside the pocket like a Jaden or a Josh Allen or a Lamar or anyone of that ilk either. But despite all that, we have a good enough roster. Shout out to Brad Holmes. I saw some people criticize him because maybe not necessarily caring about the injury history of some of these players. Maybe that's valid. But shout out to him. I think we built a good team. And I think we still can win with him. But, man, he deserves a lot of blame. You cannot turn my ball over. You cannot turn that ball over. Now, in saying that, going back to the defense, you got to. I know they were put in bad positions by Goff, but they didn't stop Jaden Daniels once. And I think Jaden is special. He's special. But God damn it, you gotta impede him in some way. I think it was the only stop, the first drive of the third quarter. Maybe there was another stop. I did turn it off after a certain point. I didn't want to see it. It was hard to watch. We didn't stop that offense at all. And listen, as much as people have made a lot about Aaron Glenn, going back to these coordinators, last year to fire AG, fire AG, fire AG. Every game, fire AG. This year, he did a good job. We were a solid running defense. We're a solid scoring defense. Not the best passing defense. Not the worst either, but definitely below average when it comes to passing yards. Definitely a lot of injuries, but also a lot of cupcakes on the schedule. I don't know if he's coming back or not. I don't know if it's critical or not. He did a good job as far as Aaron Glenn over the season. Golly, you got to give your team a chance. In the same way Jared Goff cannot throw all these fucking picks, you can't just not stop him once. Okay, there was a pick six. Again, can't throw those picks. There's a lot of easier setups because of those picks. I'll give you that. The defense was put in a bad case, but, you still gave up 38 points. Was it 38? I can't remember. Yeah, it was 40. Yeah, gave up 38 points. Can't do that. Can't happen. Now, let's get to the main event. Stone Cold Dan Campbell. One of the reasons this window may already be shut, even though I gave the coordinator smoke, I started off with Ben Johnson. He's everyone's golden child. I gave Jared Goff the smoke he deserves. I don't know if he's the guy. I think we can win with him, but he's not the guy. The energy flow has never been Jared Goff out to the team. It's been the team out to Jared Goff. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordination, has always been iffy, but we got a lot of talent on this defense. Maybe we can bring everything together, whether he's the coordinator or not. Maybe this defense can come together. Dan Campbell. Stone Cold Dan Campbell. Everyone likes him. Pat McAfee likes him. MCDC, I still like him. He's a culture guy. He makes boneheaded decisions in crunch time. He's not an X's and O's guy. He relies on the coordinators to do the X's and O's thing. We got, again, I go back to, I gave Ben his smoke for what happened in San Fran. But you're the head coach, you know what I'm saying? All these fourth downs. And again, didn't take kicks, field goals in that game where, granted, we did have a bad kicking situation. Our kicker back then was not Jake Bates. And we had kicker Riley Patterson, I think. Was he the kicker then? And he's already been cut from other teams. So I'll grant you that we didn't have the best kicking situation. But there were a lot of times in that game could have took some field goals, didn't. We have this game. 12 men on the field. You're yelling at them. Call a timeout. Call a timeout. There's one thing with head coaches that is unforgivable with me. It is when something happens that a regular Madden player could solve. Now, granted, you can't have 12 men on the field in Madden, but you can use your timeouts. When Matt Eberflus against the Lions messed up the timeouts and didn't use all his timeouts, it drove me crazy. When Raheem Morris, a few games later in Atlanta, didn't use all his timeouts, wasn't it against Washington? I think it was. Drove me crazy. You got to use your timeout. I know they're valuable, but God damn it, it's 4th and 2. If you stop them, you got a chance. You got to use your timeouts when you have them. You were aware there were 12 men on the field because you guys are yelling, call the fucking timeout. He's had clock management issues. We have all these little issues with Dan Campbell. He's a culture guy, and that's what we needed because we're the worst franchise in sports history, and he's been able to turn it around the 4 years he's been here. And again, though I'm critical as a fan, I'm not saying we need to get rid of any of the people involved. I still want somehow Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn to come back, especially because I don't know if I trust Dan Campbell without great coordinators. I don't know if he has all the X's and O's that you need in order to win a championship. He needs his coordinators. If I remember correctly, he was a tight ends coach before he got the head coaching job. So this is really his first time doing something like this. If I remember correctly, I don't have everything in front of me. Please correct me in the comments. If you went through this 20+ minute videos, may even go 30 minutes. Like I said, and I'm sorry if it's incoherent. There is a soft focus of blaming everybody that needs to be blamed. But man, Dan Campbell, I love you. I love you like the Caucasian uncle I never had, man. You got to have better decision making. You just have to. We got one more year left. We got one more year with the cap space available to actually get the job done. After that, we're paying Goff way too much fucking money, and we're going to be fucked. I don't know if the coordinators are going to come back. I don't know if the coordinators are going to be great coaches. A lot of coordinators aren't. Ask Josh McDaniel. Everybody loves Ben Johnson. He makes iffy decisions. A lot of people love Aaron Glenn. He made iffy decisions. I'm still a fan of Jared Goff, but I've always known what he was. We've always known this. Any Lions fan, we know. We may not tell y'all, but we know what he is. We know he's not really the guy, but we got a good enough team that he can do it. And again, I brought up Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, for all those numbers he has, a lot of bad playoff runs, and even the ones that he did win were kind of in spite of the team or in spite of him. Mainly the team dragging him to championships, especially that last one in Denver. But even the first one in Indy, he had more picks than touchdowns that run. So I think he had more picks and touchdowns both runs. And how many times did he choke away a Super Bowl or a playoff game? So it doesn't mean we can't cash in. Now, obviously, I would say Peyton is better than Goff, but I'm just giving an example of a guy who did throw a lot of picks in the playoffs, did lose a lot of games, even though he helped win games. And Jared Goff has helped us win games. It's just the flow of energy, is the team framework. We had finally been a franchise. If we had given Matthew Stafford this type of, franchise, maybe we would have won a championship with him. He wouldn't have had to go to LA. But he never had the offensive line Goff had. Never. Never, ever. Obviously, he had a great receiver. One of the best receivers ever. But never the offensive line. They gave him other receivers. Remember Golden Tate. There was another guy, too. He'd have good receivers from time to time, but never this type of offensive line. He was always running for his life. That's why, that sidearm throw Matt does, it's by necessity, man. You know what I'm saying? It's by necessity. A lot of that back foot sidearm shit, necessity. We never gave him this type of offensive line. There's a reason that trade was made, man. There's a reason for a couple years we didn't know if Goff was the guy. And he's got to be the guy now. We done paid him. We all we can do is go forward. There's nothing left to do. All is not lost. We got one more year, and if we don't cash it in, fuck it. We're still the Lions. We'll at least had a few runs. At least we got that. I know that sounds terrible, but when you've been a fan of this franchise for as long as I have, you know what it is. I'm not going same old lines. That's not what this video is. This video is me assessing the blame as I see fit, telling everybody, hey, this is what happens. Only one team's going to win a championship. This would have sucked to be the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that. Maybe we were too hype about the NFC North. Maybe we just beat up on some other divisions who had down years and therefore making us a little more inflated. And that's a fair criticism. We got next year. I don't know if the coordinators will stay. Probably not. Who do we replace them with? I don't know. We got to replace these coordinators. We have to bring in whatever talent we can. Just bring in talent for talent's sake. We have a solid offensive line. Obviously, we maybe need to bolster it a little bit because I do worry about it aging. Obviously, as many people on defense that we can bring in, we need. And we got to run it back. And we just got to do better. We just got to do better. We got to learn from the mistakes. We got to come back better, man. There's nothing else to be said. Hopefully we shake off some of the bandwagon fans. I don't think that would be a bad thing. I'm sorry to the fans that got cocky. You got to understand the pain we've actually felt, those long-term fans. I'm still proud of the Lions. I'm still proud of them. That I'll say. As critical as I've been, as pissed as I am about this loss, and all respect to Jaden Daniels, all respect to the Washington Redskins, baby Dan Campbell with all the fourth down calls. All respect to them. Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. I fuck up everyone's name. Oh boy. All respect to them. They deserve all the respect in the world. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. We just got to do better. So maybe next year will be the year. But I'm also worried because teams, we were like molten lava last year. We weren't formed. We hadn't had, that was the first year we had ever really had of that kind. We made it to the conference championship. We could have made it to the Super Bowl if a few things would have been done correctly, but they weren't. And we were free form. And now we have another thing. We're crystalline a little bit more. A little more crystalline, a little more free form now. Are we a team that underachieves in the playoffs? I talked a little bit about, we'll find out. One of those guys is going to go further than the Lions between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I said, they're just going to choke in the playoffs. Why? Because that's been their MO. They have many years of going to the playoffs, getting there close with no cigar. Now, one of those guys are going to prove me right. One of them are going to prove me wrong, obviously, because they're going against each other. But I didn't want to I said this to my brother. I don't want to crystallize and be one of those teams that just constantly gets to the playoffs but doesn't get over the hump. I don't want that to happen. We got one more year. Next year is the last year we got any decent amount of cap room to bring guys in. We got to keep everybody healthy. I'm still worried, is Aiden going to be the guy he once was? And hopefully we can replace the coordinators with somebody. But I think we can do better on defense. I don't want to say Ben Johnson's overrated at all. We'll miss him definitely once he goes. I think he is going to go somewhere, and I hope he does well. But I think we can replace the coordinators, and we just got to execute. We got to execute in big games. Maybe we'd be a little bit better off not being the 1 seed. Maybe we'd be a little bit better off if we were a 2 or 3 seed where we got to play wild card weekend and stay sharp. Maybe we'd be a little bit better off with a later bye. That was another thing. And shout out to Tom Brady. He said this in one of our middle of the year games. He said, they got a early bye, and I've been on teams with early byes, and we'll have a good season or the good first half, first 2/3 of the season, but in that last part of it, we're struggling, and we struggle with a lot of injuries. So maybe if we get the luck of a draw of a later bye, even though we're going to probably have a tough schedule because of this year, and that's also a factor in how the NFL rates teams. We're going to probably be matched up with much tougher divisions. But maybe that'll be better. Maybe we'll get a little more battle test. Another issue that I was worried about all year, we never played the Commanders. We never played the whole NFC East. We didn't play the Commanders or the Eagles, and I was like, man, we don't know enough about them. And plus, Jaden Daniels, there's not enough tape on him. There's only a year of tape, and he seems to be evolving. He's molten. He's not fully formed. He's evolving each week. He looks a lot better now than he did in the middle of the season. He started off pretty good. He kind of had a little bit of a slump in the middle of the season, but then he ended on a high note. He kind of ascended toward the end, and he's looking great. And hey, I wish the Redskins, they're another maligned franchise. Not as maligned as ours, as I yelled about earlier. But, they haven't had as much success as they once did. Yes, I call them the Redskins. Fuck. I'm part Native American. I joke because every time I look in the damn mirror as I get older, I see a fucking Washington Redskins staring back at me. That's neither here nor there. Shout out to the Redskins. Shout out to the Lions. I still love you. I just want you to do better. I'll talk to all you guys later. This is 30 minutes. Watch it if you want. Peace.